Hi, it's MJ Callaway here in my tiny bounce up studio with our next contributor from the book 21, WON. And I'm so excited to share a little bit about Maartje with you. So she is an international change maker, helping individuals and organizations find their authentic path out of the current. She is an executive project and crisis management professional, an accredited coach, and a diversity and inclusion specialist. So welcome, Maartje. So happy to have you today.
Thank you for having me.
Now, I am excited to hear because you are an international change maker. And from what I hear, you have traveled extensively throughout the world. So could you share some of the places where you have worked?
Yes. So my American ties are to Houston, where two of my kids were born, and New Orleans before coming to Pittsburgh. But in between and before that, I've also lived and worked in India on a project for Iraq, actually. Spent significant time in the Middle East. I've worked in and lived in Eastern Russia on an island north of Japan. I've been for work through all continents except for Antarctica, and I enjoy that. So I enjoy moving every couple of years and seeing so many different places in the world. Originally, I'm from the Netherlands in Europe.
Fascinating. I can't even imagine the experiences that you have gained and what you have learned from traveling so much. I mean, it had to be awesome.
Yeah, I've loved it, and I've loved something about every place. And the good thing is that I can take what I like and bring it with me to the next place and leave behind what didn't suit me, right?
Right. Now, throughout that travel, is it my understanding that most of that travel, whenever you have moved, has been because of your career or your education?
Yes, that's correct. I started at 16 with an exchange that was available to me at high school. So I went to Paris for a couple of months for school. And then as a student, I actually spent some time across the border in Canada. And then I joined first an international gas company and then an international oil company, Shell, and worked as international staff for almost 20 years for them.
Wow. So you have been traveling extensively since 16.
Yes.
So whenever you had made the change to move to Pittsburgh, there was some difference during this move compared to your prior moves. Could you explain a little bit there and what had happened?
Yes. Yeah. So indeed, all the moves I made were for my job or for both me and my partner's jobs. And I resigned from my career in oil and gas in mid 2018 and decided that I wanted something else. And my husband and I had been talking about what other locations, and of course we thought about what other locations a company like Shell could have taken us. And then suddenly this opportunity for my husband came around, and it was a really good opportunity for him. So it was a call in the summer saying, you want to go to Pennsylvania? And I was a bit like, I don't know. And then it was more specific, you want to go to Pittsburgh? So I Googled it, landed on that Forbes article about all the tech companies and about what a good place it is to live. So I said, well, it's a great opportunity for you and you deserve to pursue that. So let's do it. But then I arrived here and I, of course, didn't really have a professional identity. The work that I was doing was all virtual. And so if I would run into people, they would say, oh, welcome to Pittsburgh. What made you move here? And then they would say work or something else. I said, yeah, work. And they said, your work or your husband's work? And I would have to say my husband's work. And people often stop asking then. So yeah, it was intriguing. I came here as a partner of and a mom of, and I'm very proud of my husband and my kids, but I struggled not having that third element there, right?
Because it's the first time it has ever happened to you. Because prior to that, people would ask you about your job and your career. So that had to be a little different. How did that make you feel?
Yeah, it was a struggle. It was the first time because if you work for a big multinational like Shell, people immediately kind of go like, oh, okay, right? It's also not just an unknown small company. Yeah, so it made me feel invisible, mostly because if you're a woman and you moved somewhere and it's clear that you moved for your husband's job, then they assume that you're the homemaker or that you take on the childcare chores or duties. They're not really chores, of course. And so people are kind of conditioned to, not ask on. And so it made me feel invisible, as if I was just an extension of.
And which is so different from what you were accustomed to, especially because you are a crisis management specialist. So you were used to going into a company, and when everyone else was chaotic, what did you do? You were the one who came in and did what?
Yeah. So usually when I came in, people were happy that I was there, right? And I came in to solve a problem, to fix a situation, and usually people were eagerly awaiting my arrival. The welcome in a new place is usually very positive, right? With people been already asking for weeks, what's the earliest you can get here? And we're glad you're here now, and we really need you. And apart from my family, nobody really needed me in Pittsburgh.
And it also was tough because did you know anybody? I mean, on top of you're not moving for your own position, so you don't have a way to meet others. Was there anyone here that you knew ahead of time?
No, I worked in a part of the business that has nothing to do what happens here in Pittsburgh. So my husband still works for Shell and is here for them. So this was never on our radar because my career wouldn't have taken us here. And this is not a typical oil and gas town, or it's not a place with other expat companies or that kind of a bubble. It's not a typical place where people come for a short time, right? People come here to spend their lives because it's good quality of life, and they don't come here for a couple of years. And so, no, I didn't know anybody here. I didn't have a network here. I didn't have a job or a job network to tap into. So I met some people through my kids' school and people who helped us with the relocation, but that was about it. Yeah.
So here you are in a new city, and also you're starting a new business, and then you find yourself in the middle of a pandemic. What happened?
Yeah. So my business is about me, right? And I'm selling me and my expertise. And if being here temporary is kind of searching how to place that, right? Was I going to continue to try and work virtually and just pass by on Pittsburgh? But that's also hard because how would I have a life here then? So I was trying to figure that out. Not really, missing the local connections to tap into. And so my self-confidence was dwindling some. I was struggling a little bit how to place this and position this and make best use of my time here. I lost my godmother the Christmas of 2019, who was very important to me. Yeah, and so I was also emotionally maybe not in the best place. And then the pandemic happened, and so the tiny buds of a social life that had started to grow, were quickly gone again, right? And so I reached this point where I was like, okay, nothing's quite working. I don't really have the energy to try anything anymore. I just wanted to give up and think, okay, well, the Pittsburgh years might be the lost years, right?
There was a trigger, though, that changed, that turned you around. And what was that trigger?
So I think as a family, we're very good in this moving business. And I know my kids are also okay with this lifestyle and enjoy that. And when the pandemic hit, we do like everything we do, we took it in strides and we started to make plans. We got we had some major trips out of Pittsburgh to Europe and canceled, where we would reconnect with so many of friends and family. So that was a bummer, but we made plans and we tried real hard for a couple of weeks. And I'd say about 5 or 6 weeks in, we realized that this was going to be a long haul. We realized the school year was not going to happen anymore. We realized we really didn't know people in Pittsburgh well enough to even make a tiny bubble with anybody. And so I saw that my kids and my husband were starting to struggle. And every time we move and we start over, it's me who energizes that, right? And helps get that going. And seeing them and realizing that I was kind of at the bottom, but that they were starting to get seriously affected, I suddenly realized that we had a potential crisis on our hands, and that if I wasn't going to do something about it, nobody else would. And that it was my job to make sure that they would be okay. And so I could do for them what I maybe at that point couldn't really do for myself, which was start plans for us as a family, how we would get out of that and how we would make it through the COVID summer, as I called it.
Okay. That is what you did for companies. So
Yes.
you pulled in, really, that's your authenticity, is when you go into a company and you did that for your family. However, you did something for yourself too afterwards, after you got your family up and running and getting them back on track. What did you do for you?
Yeah. So I'd say doing something for the family was also something for me, right? And that summer really helped, because we looked at what's important for us, and I went after that. So we did make sure we saw some people and friends, and that we had some adventures to replace the ones we would normally have had, etc. And so by the end of the summer, we were quite proud of ourselves, because we'd done well and everybody was happy, and we knew there was many more months of this to come, but we felt as if we now could do this, right?
Right.
And so when the kids went back to school, I said to myself, okay, now I have to do this for me, right? I now need to use this energy and actually get something going. And so I thought about, what is it that I need most, or what will help me break out of the cycle at least a little bit, to start slowly peeling away at the challenge. And for me, it's creating external deadlines and creating contact with somebody. So I asked in one of my networks that I'm part of if somebody wanted to be my accountability person. And I promised myself 10 weeks, 10 hours per week to work on the professional me, and called in every week to my partner to ask, to report on how I'd done and to actually make progress. And that really, for me, created the turnaround, right? That I needed to actually report out every week whether I'd achieved anything, and couldn't stay in my funk, and just slowly chip away at some actions and got more ambitious as we went along. And I've not lost that momentum actually since. So I'm very happy with where I'm at, and I'm moving onwards and upwards, and no longer lost.
Awesome. That's amazing, because that wouldn't be easy for anybody. So kudos to you for going through everything you did, from moving to Pittsburgh, taking the pandemic in stride, getting your family back to where they needed to be, and getting yourself, spending the time to get yourself and your business where it needed to be.
Thank you.
Absolutely, you're welcome. So what is one tip that you would give to our viewers who are listening? What is one tip you would give to them if they find themselves, in a position where they could possibly be stuck? Because life is unpredictable. We never know what life will throw at us. So what is one tip that you would share with them?
Yeah, so the whole thing about being stuck is that it needs some kind of impulse or energy to get unstuck, right? And just like a ball of thread that's all knotted up. It sometimes doesn't need that much, but you need to start somewhere. And sometimes it's very hard to see where to start. But I think it actually doesn't matter where you start. It matters that you start, because once you start, other people start to see what's happening and can start helping you and can do something for you, right? So for me, I go back to thinking, what is it that I can do, even in the state I'm in? What is it that I can do for myself? And I can show up for a network meeting, and I can ask somebody for 15 minutes of their time for 10 weeks, right? To help me get moving. And even if that person after 5 weeks is running out of time, that's already a help, right? Or even if at that meeting there isn't anybody, then I've started asking and something will happen, right? So I'd say is if you are stuck, you need to figure out the one thing that you can manage or make do, that you'll know creates a little bit of an opening or a first peel, and then things will start to move, and things will start to move in both good and wrong directions, but at least there will be some force and energy that starts to untangle the stuck, right? And I find that if you manage to push yourself to that, something will start to move, and slowly you get to a better space, and then you can help yourself also maybe better, right?
Absolutely. They're moving the needle. You moved the needle. It didn't matter what it was, you moved it a little bit. So, and each time you moved it a little bit more. So thank you so much for sharing everything with us. Now, how can our audience members, how can our viewers, how can they contact you? What is the best way to contact you?
Yeah. So I'm my profile is on LinkedIn, and I'm quite active there. So you can look me up there. There's not too many Maartjes around. You can also email me at maartje@demaartje.com. Or if you search on _Maartje, you also find me. So several ways you can find me. There is only one De Maartje out there.
And we will make sure that we have your information too at the end of the video. So that will help. So thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing. I mean, it was a heartfelt message that you shared. Not everyone can be, that transparent. So appreciate that. And also for giving everyone an opportunity to learn a tip actually too from you that they can implement if they find themselves stuck. So thank you.
Thank you very much. I was happy to be here.
Oh, thrilled to have you. Now, this is MJ Callaway signing out. As always, make it a bounce up day.